So there's a woman, and she is just exasperated with her husband. They have been fussing and fighting for 40 years. One morning, somebody can relate to that, I can hear it. One morning she got up and she said, I've had enough. She takes out his suitcase, she puts in all of his belongings, she puts it out on the porch, and as he goes out, she says to him, I just hope that you have a frustrating, depressing, and not a very happy life. And he looks, and all of a sudden, he just starts to beam. And he says, you mean I can come home? Oh, so anyway, America the Beautiful. I want to be very clear on something because I've given a lot of thought to it this week. The difference between patriotism and the love of our country, which is how the dictionary defines it, and the difference between patriotism and politics. Two different things. Politics is the activities or affairs enjoyed by a government, politicians, and political agendas. So we sometimes get it mixed up, and we think, oh, this country. This country is magnificent, from sea to shining sea. And I added up last night, and there were over 600,000 men at the time, because I'm only using 3 of the wars, First, Second, and Revolution, that gave their life for this country. Some of them were 18 years old. They fought that you and I can walk into church this morning, can walk into wherever we want, whatever church we want, whatever store we want. We get to celebrate this 4th of July any way we want. We can go to parades, we can do fireworks, firework shows, caveat that, barbecues, however we want. We get to choose how we live our life in this country. Do we agree with the politicians? Most of the time not, but the good news is every 4 years or 2 years, it changes. And we have the power to go out and vote and do something different. But to remember that this country and the people that have fought for this country is just almost mind-boggling. All the young, and now the women too, that have gone to faraway lands to never return for our freedom. So I want to go back just a little bit in time. In 1609, the Pilgrims landed in Jamestown, Virginia. And for 160 years, they became farmers. And they absolutely lived under the tyranny of the King of England. And at the end, it was King Edward III. So it was taxation without representation. And this will go into our story, but they were taxed without getting anything back. They were only giving. So in 1775, some young men, some older, got together and they formed a Continental Congress. And these were philosophers. They weren't so much politicians, even though they had different ideologies of basically what we'd say left or right, but it was a whole different, it wasn't all of this nonsense that goes on now. These were philosophers trying to decide a country that's never been done before, a country that was, the land of the free and the home of the brave, self-governing, this beauty of this land. And historians that write now say that the Revolutionary War, which started in 1775, was fought by farmers in the United States. And they only carried muskets. Now, these were people that farmed all their lives. They were invaded by the English, who were professional soldiers, and they were outnumbered 5-1. And historians even will say it was an absolute, I've got this, I wanted to say it exactly. Maybe I don't have it written down. But it was divine intervention, because there was no way that we could have won the Revolutionary War. Divine intervention took place. So this is God's country, one nation under God. When Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, John Adams had red hair and he was fiery. And he was known for a hot head. They asked him to write the Declaration of Independence. And he went to Jefferson, who was truly the philosopher, and he said, they won't believe a word what I say, Thomas. He said, you write it. So Thomas Jefferson wrote down, started the draft. In 2 weeks it was finished, and there was not one mark out on it, and it was accepted as he wrote. People said to him, how did you do that? He said, oh, I didn't. He said, I picked up my pen, and it wrote itself. So truly a nation, one nation under God, with such divine guidance. And we're still here to say, this land is our land, land is your land and my land. Politics has nothing to do with it. So let's just take a look at unity and think of how we can apply some of these philosophical ideas that unity also picked up, because unity is a faith, a philosophy, a way of life that's about freedom. It's not going to tell you and I we're going to go to hell. It's not going to tell us Satan walks behind our back. And if we want to believe that, fine. That's not our belief here. We believe in a loving God, one power, one presence, one activity taking place. And God is freedom, because in God we are free. In this life of people, places, and things, no. But when we go back to the basics, one life, one activity, and it's freedom in that life. It is freedom. Everything is provided. And then we know that that life is our life. It is inculcate. I'm going to say everything wrong this morning, so just get the drift. Within each one of us, that is who we are. And we are free in that love. So when the newspaper starts to tell us, or the news, because have they ever told us good news? No. There are no real reporters. Jennings and several of them who were true reporters are gone. Now it's just their political point of view of the particular station. Believe none of it. Do your own research. This is a magnificent country. Nothing to do with politics whatsoever. So enjoy this week. Think about this week. I can go anywhere I want. I can do anything I want within the law, because nobody is going to tell me that I can't go to this store or that store or do whatever I want. We are free. Just breathe that in. Breathe that in. Unity, this faith is about freedom. So what if we declare this is a week of independence? Wouldn't that be wonderful? We are going to be free this week. And the first thing is, first point, what if we declared this week, listen to this, a mind fast, mind feast week? What if we decided we were going to fast from negative thoughts? What if we decided we were going to fast from negative news? And what if we made a decision, and we have to be awake and aware to do this? What if we made a decision that this week I'm going to feast on positive? I'm going to read Myrtle Fillmore. I'm going to read the Daily Word, or whatever uplifting thing that you care. There's a wonderful movie I was telling Reverend Doug about. It's called The Secret, but it's not The Secret. It is a fictionalized. Josh Lucas is in it, a lot of stars. It's about a family that all of a sudden decides to change their thinking. And it's so beautiful. If you have a chance to look it up, watch it, because it's inspiring. It is our message that we can change our life if we decide to stop feasting on negativity. And this week, this beautiful week ending in the 4th of July celebration, we are going to feast on good news. We are going to tell ourselves again and again that we are so loved by God, that God has created us out of itself to do God's bidding on this earth while we're still alive. Each of us here on a divine appointment. And it's beautiful. Do not underestimate. If any thoughts come into your mind this week about being less than, or put it out. Feast on the fact that I am here. I am here because I've accepted a divine appointment to be here to represent God to all that I meet. That means I become a living blessing. I am kind. I am thoughtful. I am peaceful. When I enter a room, people can feel it because I anchor peace, because it's within me. And that is the peace of God that passes all human understanding. So this is the week I declare that I am fasting on negative thinking. on negative news. Turn it off, because who knows what's the truth. Do your own research. And I'm going to feast on the fact that we have a magnificent country, and we have a God that is so great and so good. The second thing is, I declare this week that I am going to live in gratitude. Gratitude. Chuck Chamberlain, some of you might remember Richard Chamberlain, the actor. Well, Chuck Chamberlain was his father, and he was really one of the, if you could call a guru of AA. He had many. He changed so many lives. And he wrote a book one time, and it was called Looking Through a New Pair of Glasses. What if we did that this week? What if we decided to look at only the good and give thanks over and over again? Gosh, look at the trees. How magnificent God's beauty is. How magnificent, how graceful the trees are. What if we decided to just continually say, thank you, God, that or however you phrase it, but thank you because I live. You know, sometimes I wonder about the difference between people that are born into a country, right now, part of Iran, it's not political, but they are held captive. How did we, of all the blessings, get to come into this country, this life of freedom? You know, just be so grateful. Just think all week long, I am so grateful to the grace of God that got me here. I am grateful for everyone I see. I am grateful for the beauty, and I am grateful that I live in the land of the free, in the home of the brave. St. Paul said this, finally, brethren, whatever things are true, honest, whatever things are pure, lovely, or of good report, think on those things, and then give thanks. Give thanks for a life that is filled with joy, if we let it. If we start fasting and feasting on positive thoughts, we can change the way we think this week. We can uplift our thinking into joy. We can see through a new pair of glasses, not what the politicians tell us at all, but we can see the truth, and the truth, they say, what? It makes us free. Charles Fillmore once said that freedom comes from the inner, not from the outer. So we just breathe in that inner right now, because in that inner, I can choose. I have the power to choose. Our third unity principle, change your thinking, change your thought. We can choose what we think. The ancient Dhammapada, which was written thousands of years before Christ, it's the oldest Buddhist teaching, and it says something that always stuck with me. It says, I am what I think, having become what I thought. Isn't that fascinating? I am what I think, having become what I thought. So let's think on those things this week. And let's look at our lives. You know, am I thinking these positive, wonderful things about this magnificent creature, this magnificent human that I am? Or I'm going to let the politics talk about this and that and run their mouths. My daughter's a psychologist, and she deals with a lot of people still in California. And she said she has had more news reporters, supposedly reporters, newscasters, quit because they can't do it anymore, because they know they're not telling what is the truth. So find our own truth. From the outside you can find it, but from the inside. Gosh, I'm special in not an egotistical way. I am special because I have a divine appointment to be here. And the last thing is, I declare this week that I am forgiving myself for any things I have held against myself and others. Forgiveness, we talk about that a lot. Let the past go. It does not exist in the mind of God. God is the eternal now. They've talked about this for thousands of years. Where am I? Am I right here and right now? You know, so there's nothing to forgive myself for. I've done the best I can up until this moment, and from now on I carry on with the new knowledge I have. And then the other thing, forgive others. What good does it do? It just takes our energy. So we've got a lot going on today, and so I'm going to surprise Reverend Doug and end early. But I want to tell a quick story about John Adams, who was our second president, and about Thomas Jefferson. I think about this story a lot. They were the best of friends, the best of friends. Jefferson was older than Adams, but when Jefferson's wife died, he used to go over to the Adams home and sit with John and his wife Abigail, and they talked about philosophy and building this new country. They were best friends. And then the election came up after Washington retired. And Jefferson wrote, see, we think all of this is new. It's not. So Jefferson wrote a very nasty article about Adams. And of course, then Adams did win. Jefferson never forgave him. So for 10 years, it went on. These men never spoke to each other again. One lived in Virginia and one lived in the East, never spoke. This beautiful friendship seemed to be just evaporated because they got upset over one thing with each other. So finally a friend came to Adams and he said, John, he said, Thomas is very ill. He said, this has gone on long enough. He said, he's going to die and you're going to regret it. So Adams thought about it, and so he wrote a note to Jefferson, never expecting it to be returned. Well, Jefferson immediately wrote him back, and then it started the next 10 years of their life. They corresponded all the time, hundreds of letters back and forth. And then on July 4th, in 1896, I believe, Adams became very ill, and his last breath was, Jefferson lives. But little did he know that 2 hours before that, in Virginia, Jefferson had died. So they both died on the 4th of July within hours of each other. But I think the moral of that story is, what good is it to be so angry with people that we lose years of our life and our friendship with them, and at the end of the time, half the time, we can't even remember what the argument was about. But life is short, and we are here to be peacemakers. That's in the Beatitudes. So let's do 3 things this week. Number 1, we are going to mind fast on all of the negativity. We are going to think about the magnificence of our country. And if you have not seen it, you can go on YouTube or see, the papers don't report this. But if you go on YouTube, there's hundreds of interviews with these World Cup players talking about the magnificence of this country. They can't believe it. And you know what they can't believe especially is Walmart and Buc-ee's. And they've talked so much about Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's, have you ever been to Buc-ee's? Anybody? Well, it's a magnificent store. Anyway, they have gotten so much publicity that Buc-ee's just announced it's opening 3 more stores. So, but they talk about the beauty of our land and that we can go anywhere we want. So it takes sometimes a foreigner, so to speak, from a different country that lives under a totally different laws than we do. We have a country, the politics aside, a country that says, welcome, be here, I'm here for you. You are free. You are free to worship the God of your choice. You are free in the knowledge that you have been appointed from all eternity to be here. We are special and not from ego. We are special because we have been appointed. The second thing is put a new pair of glasses on. We call them rosy-colored glasses. And look through the beauty of this land. Think on the things that St. Paul said in Philippians. Think on what's true and what's good. Let those glasses reflect the goodness and the beauty and the life of this country. And the third thing is forgive. We can't talk about that enough. You know, have I told you I've had a little struggle in my own family, or a big struggle, however you want to say it. However, the forgiveness I work on all the time because it does me no good. Soft hearts, that's what we're called. The Buddhists call it soft hearts. So that's where we are. The 4th of July week, we celebrate freedom. We celebrate the beauty of this land. It's your land and it's my land. And this is the week that we absolutely think on these things, as St. Paul said. Happy 4th of July week. God bless us all, and thank you.